Chapter 1. After the breakup, I immediately resigned. I was preparing to move abroad for a new opportunity when my ex-girlfriend and former boss, the president of the company, suddenly showed up at the airport to win me back. She told me she had fired the junior assistant and that from now on, I would be the company's second in command. But just as I was about to cancel my flight to go back with her, she pulled her hand away and called the junior assistant, cooing into the phone. "Ethan, you won the bet." This waste of space really thought I'd ask him to stay. Then she turned to me with a cold smirk. "It was just a joke. Did you actually take it seriously? If you're leaving, then hurry up and go. No one's stopping you this time." My colleagues who were present laughed at me, saying I was like a dog that comes running back the moment she waves. What they didn't know was that the only reason I was canceling my flight was because my new company had just completed an acquisition, and I was about to become their new president. When my ex-girlfriend, Victoria Vance, smugly told me that her attempt to win me back was just a joke, I didn't get angry. I simply took out my phone to call a ride back to my apartment. The colleagues present all looked at me with mocking gazes. "Sincere, the president said she has no intention of keeping you. What are you still standing around for? Go on, book your flight and leave," one sneered. "Didn't you say you got an offer from abroad? What's the matter? Did they rescind it?" Another chimed in. Victoria watched them taunt me, making no effort to stop them. This kind of oppressive and humiliating workplace bullying had been a constant presence around me for the past few years. In the past, I would have argued back, feeling wronged that my girlfriend, the company president, wouldn't even speak up for me. But now I felt nothing. It was like watching a clown show. "My business is none of your concern, is it?" I said flatly. Victoria scoffed, her disdainful eyes scanning me from head to toe. "Still so stubborn even now? With your limited abilities, if I hadn't been supporting you all these years, you probably wouldn't even be able to afford to eat going abroad?" What a joke. It was true. I, a graduate from a top university, had turned down a high-paying job that others could only dream of to help her start this company from scratch. But in Victoria's eyes, I was worthless, only getting by because of her charity. I almost laughed at the thought. I used to love Victoria with all my heart. I never complained, even after slaving away for a decade and still only being a manager. But then she brought in a new junior assistant, Ethan Hayes. Time and again, she would take my projects and give them to him. She even made me the scapegoat for his mistakes, forcing me to take the fall. Then she used that as an excuse to cut my salary and suspend me, while promoting Ethan and giving him a raise. That was when I finally woke up. This one-sided love I had been maintaining was over. I resigned and broke up with her on the spot, deciding to pursue my career abroad. I never imagined that just as I was about to board my flight, she would show up to play this kind of joke on me. I didn't feel sad, just puzzled. How blind must I have been to fall in love with a woman like this? I shook my head, not wanting to waste another word on her. "You're right about everything. Can I go now?" I tried to walk around Victoria, but she suddenly grabbed my arm, staring at me with contempt. "You're such a good actor now that your excuse about going abroad has been exposed. Are you still going to pretend? For old time's sake, I'll give you a way out. Come back with me, and I'll let you be Ethan's assistant." Seeing her magnanimous posture, I finally understood the real purpose of her joke. On the surface, it was a bet with Ethan to see if I would take the easy way out and come back. In reality, she just wanted me to stay at the company and work like a dog for her and Ethan. I had to admit, Victoria had thought everything through for Ethan's career, a promotion, a raise, and even a personal mentor. As for me, the one who had helped her achieve her dream of being a boss step by step, she didn't hesitate to take everything from me to pave the way for him. I let out a cold laugh. With Ethan's level of incompetence, he's not worthy of my help. Victoria's face instantly darkened. "Sincere Clark, it seems I've been too lenient with you over the years. That's why you've become so full of yourself." Before she could finish, a figure approached from a distance. Victoria's expression immediately softened as she went to greet him. Ethan was the only person in the entire company who didn't call her President Vance, instead addressing her intimately by her first name. Even I, her official boyfriend, never had that privilege. Ethan glanced at me and then smiled at Victoria. "See? I knew Big C's talk about going abroad was just an excuse. He didn't leave after all." Victoria shot me a look, her eyes filled with disgust. Some people think so highly of themselves, believing the company can't function without them not like you, Ethan. You're so capable, yet so humble. Since he didn't take the opportunity I gave him, then so be it, let's go. But Ethan held on to Victoria's hand, looking pitiful. Victoria, we can't go yet. My watch has been missing ever since Big C resigned. That watch was my grandmother's heirloom. Then he turned to me, pleading, Big C, please just give it back to me. Before I could even process what was happening, Victoria was glaring at me furiously. Sincere Clark, you're a thief now? I was about to deny it, but she cut me off coldly. Don't even try to argue. Do you think Ethan would falsely accuse you? You don't even have a job right now. Who knows if you've resorted to petty theft? She then ordered several other employees open his suitcase and check it. I stared at Victoria in disbelief. We had been together for 10 years. She knew my character better than anyone. And now, because of one baseless accusation from Ethan, she was going to have my suitcase opened in public? I didn't want to argue with her over the cruel joke she played on me earlier, but this act of outright bullying ignited my fury. It wasn't disappointment or heartbreak, it was pure anger and disgust. Stop, I commanded. Ethan, however, put on a show of false concern. Big C, why are you so angry? Don't tell me you actually took it. That made Victoria's expression even more revolted. She motioned for 2 people to hold me back and said coldly, Ignore him. Keep searching. As I watched my suitcase being tipped over, my personal belongings and clothes spilling onto the floor, my anger reached its peak. I yelled for airport security. Only then did they reluctantly stop. It's not here, one of them reported. Ethan looked disappointed. Forget it. Let's not make things hard for Big C. He's not having an easy time. But Victoria shot me a venomous glare. I bet someone stole it and sold it then. Her voice softened as she turned to Ethan. Don't worry, Ethan. I'll buy you a new one. As she left, she gave me one last cold look. Sincere Clark, when you end up homeless on the street, don't you dare come begging me for help. With that, she and her entourage swept away, Ethan casting a triumphant, provocative glance back at me. I said nothing, but a cold smile formed in my mind. They had no idea that the company's projects were about to implode, that it was on the verge of bankruptcy and a hostile takeover, and I had given up my flight abroad only because my new company had just appointed me the new president of this very company. Chapter 2. My new company was a renowned multinational corporation headquartered abroad. Back when I was about to graduate, they had offered me a position because of my outstanding academic performance. But I turned it down after Victoria convinced me to stay and start a business with her. A little while ago, after I broke up with Victoria, they called me again, inviting me to join them. But just before boarding the plane, I received another call. Their domestic subsidiary had decided to acquire local companies to consolidate resources, and Victoria's company was on the list. They had decided to appoint me as the new president of the acquired company. After going home and dropping off my luggage, I arranged to meet with the head of the domestic subsidiary, Mr. Quinn. I arrived at the restaurant early to wait for him. I didn't expect to see Victoria and Ethan there. They were laughing and talking, but their expressions changed the moment they saw me. Victoria froze for a second, then walked over with an impatient look on her face. Sincere Clark, why are you following me like a pest? Weren't you acting all tough earlier? What, you regret it now? Before I could speak, Ethan chimed in with a grin. Victoria, there were so many people there earlier. Big C was probably just too proud to accept your offer. How about this, Big C? If you sincerely apologize to Victoria, I'm sure she'll be willing to give you a job opportunity. What do you say, Victoria? Victoria eyed me unhappily, feigning reluctance. Well, since Ethan is pleading your case, I suppose it's not impossible. Finish this bottle of wine, and I'll still let you be his assistant. She pointed to the wine on the table. I sneered internally. Victoria knew perfectly well that I had a stomach condition and couldn't drink, yet she proposed such a condition. It was nothing more than a power play, a way to put me in my place while she waited for me to grovel and beg. But she had miscalculated. You're overthinking things. I'm waiting for someone. Waiting for someone? Ha, you really are stubborn, Victoria scoffed. I've known you for so many years, don't think I don't know what you're thinking. You just feel like it's beneath you to be Ethan's assistant, don't you? But in this day and age, what's pride worth? Just as she was speaking, the man I was scheduled to meet, Mr. Quinn, walked over and extended his hand to me. My apologies, Mr. Clark. I hope I didn't keep you waiting long. I ignored Victoria completely, and shook Mr. Quinn's hand with a smile. "Mr. Quinn, let's talk inside. There are a couple of flies out here, and they're quite loud." Of course, of course." Victoria stared at me in disbelief. As I was about to enter the private room with Mr. Quinn, I heard Ethan say to Victoria, just loud enough for me to hear, "Looks like Big C is meeting with a headhunter to find a job." The next moment, Victoria stepped forward and blocked my path. She sneered, "Sincere Clark, you've really grown a spine. You'd rather find a job on your own than beg me? But let me remind you, given your past performance, I've already spoken to all my contacts in Linzhou. No one is willing to hire you. Do you regret it now?" She looked at me with a half smile, as if expecting me to come crawling back. But she was wrong. Victoria's influence wasn't nearly enough to pose a threat to me, and she was completely unaware that since my departure she had let Ethan take over all the major projects, putting the company at great risk and pushing it to the brink of bankruptcy. I said flatly, "Victoria, confidence is a good thing. I just hope you can maintain this attitude when your company goes bankrupt and gets acquired." Sincere you, Victoria was about to curse me out but stopped, turning her attention to Mr. Quinn. She pulled out a business card and thrust it into his hand. "Victoria Vance, president of Vance Group," she said arrogantly. "Sincere Clark is a former employee of mine, recently fired for misconduct. I'd advise your company to choose its employees carefully." With a final glance at me, she took Ethan's arm and walked away haughtily. Mr. Quinn frowned, pinching the card between his fingers as he looked at me. "This is just a buffoon. Let's talk inside." I smiled faintly. Mr. Quinn casually tossed the business card into a nearby trash can. Once inside the private room, we discussed the acquisition of Victoria's company. The plan was to leverage the impending failure of Vance Group's projects to acquire it at a low price. Mr. Quinn then handed me a list of the company's current personnel and asked for my help in creating a list for optimization. I knew the capabilities and work ethic of every single person on that list, and I promised to deliver a plan as soon as possible. After my meeting with Mr. Quinn, I went home. But as soon as I opened the door, I saw Victoria sitting on my sofa, her pale legs crossed, staring at me coldly. I couldn't help but frown. "What are you doing here?" Chapter 3. I glanced at the door, only then remembering that I had forgotten to delete her fingerprint from the lock after we broke up. Victoria didn't answer my question, instead stating icily, "Who told you my company was going bankrupt and being acquired?" I was busy changing my shoes, not bothering to respond. Victoria's expression grew even darker. "Well, your wish came true. The company is bankrupt." I raised an eyebrow. I hadn't expected Mr. Quinn to be so efficient. We had just discussed it at lunch, and by the afternoon it was done. Victoria continued, "Sincere, I don't know how you found out about this ahead of time, but don't get too excited. The company acquiring us is a major corporation. They'll help me resolve the issues with the previous projects. I will still be in charge." I went to make myself a cup of tea, unsurprised. Of course, I knew that. The original staff was being kept on temporarily because I hadn't submitted my optimization list yet. "So?" I asked calmly. Victoria stared at me intently. "I want you to hand over your previous client resources to Ethan. In return, I'll arrange a manager position for you at the new company. You should know that with the parent company's support, Vance Group will be stronger than ever. I'm offering you your manager position back. That's a very generous offer." I suddenly laughed. She said it with such self-assurance, as if she were doing me a huge favor. But I knew the truth. After the acquisition, Mr. Quinn would release the development plan I had written. One of the key points was that positions in the new company would be assigned based on ability. The only reason Victoria was asking this of me was so Ethan could use my old client resources to prove his worth and secure the vice president position. I had to hand it to her. Her devotion to Ethan was truly deep. Unfortunately, she was betting on the wrong person. "Victoria, you're quite naive." My words made Victoria's face darken. She suddenly stood up and walked towards me, step by step, staring at me with an expression that said she saw right through me. "Sincere, I know you're still jealous of Ethan. You feel wronged, wondering why I've changed towards you, and am so good to him, right? But I hope you understand that our statuses are different now. I'm the boss, a capitalist, and you're just an employee working for me. A boyfriend like you is no longer a match for me. But Ethan, he brings me a sense of novelty and the joy of being a woman. You can't compare to him." Victoria looked at me deeply. her voice unusually gentle. "I'll give you one night. Think about it." With that, she turned and left. I shook my head helplessly. I immediately deleted her fingerprint from the lock, then opened my laptop and sent over the layoff list for the next day. The following morning, I officially started my new position. When I entered the office, the employees were all buzzing about the acquisition. Victoria was, as usual, painting a rosy picture for everyone, telling them she was still part of the management and that if they worked hard, everything would be the same as before. Then, someone noticed me. Her eyes lit up for a moment, and she walked over to me, her tone smug as if she knew I would come. "You've thought it through. You're willing to give the client files to Ethan?" Chapter 4. I shook my head with a small laugh. Victoria's face fell. Just as she was about to speak, Ethan stepped in with a smile. "Big C, why do you have to be like this? If you're not planning to hand over the client files, then what are you doing here? Don't tell me you're here to work?" His words drew snickers from the other employees. I raised an eyebrow and nodded. "That's exactly why I'm here." At that, the crowd of onlookers burst into laughter. "Work? He's probably here looking for a job, thinking he can sneak in now that we've been acquired." In his dreams, Sincere, weren't you going abroad? Why are you applying for a job at our company again? Haha, I was about to speak when Victoria cut in, her face grim and her voice sharp. "Sincere Clark, will you ever give it up? I already gave you a chance by asking you to hand over the client files to Ethan. Are you still going to be so stubborn? Did you not understand what I said yesterday? Do you want to be unemployed that badly?" I shook my head wearily. "Victoria, you're the one who's about to be unemployed. If I were you, I'd start making other plans." Victoria looked at me, then suddenly let out a derisive laugh. "Everyone look at Sincere. Has he lost his mind, telling me to make other plans? What, I was the former boss of this company. You think you can fire me? Sincere, believe it or not, with me here today, you won't even be able to get a job as a janitor." Before she could finish, 2 men walked in through the main entrance. They were the people sent by Mr. Quinn from the parent company to help me restructure the office. Victoria recognized them. Her expression changed, and she quickly forced a smile, hurrying over to greet them. "Mr. Grant, you're here. Has our new president arrived yet? I'd like to go and welcome him." Mr. Grant glanced at her without a word, walked straight over to me, and gave a respectful nod. Then he turned to the crowd and announced, "This is our company's new president, Mr. Clark," for a moment. Victoria's smile froze on her face. She asked uncomfortably, "Mr. Grant, you must be joking, right? This Sincere Clark is just a useless good-for-nothing. How could you—" Suddenly, Mr. Grant pulled out the layoff list I had personally prepared the day before and threw it in her face. He pointed at her and Ethan and said coldly, "You two are fired. Pack your things and get out." Now Chapter 5. Victoria stared in disbelief at the layoff list she had picked up. After reading it, her face went deathly pale. She stared at me, her voice trembling. "How can this be? Sincere, how are you the president? You're joking with me." Mr. Grant frowned impatiently at Victoria. "Joking? Why would Mr. Clark need to joke with you? Mr. Clark is an elite talent who was interviewed and hired by our corporate headquarters, specifically dispatched to serve as the new president of this company. Of course, I'm aware that Mr. Clark was a former employee here. It's a shame you were all too blind to appreciate real talent." His words left Victoria so shocked she couldn't speak. Even my former colleagues who were watching stared at me in horror. They never imagined that the person they had bullied at work would one day become their boss. Instantly, some of them snapped out of it and rushed over to shake my hand. "Big C, Mr. Clark, I didn't mean what I said earlier. I'm so sorry. It was President Vance who made us suppress you." "Yes, Mr. Clark. I've actually always thought you were the most capable person in our company." They chattered on, trying to curry favor and beg for forgiveness, a stark contrast to the ugly faces they had shown when they were all collectively sabotaging me. Of course, I knew they were just afraid I would fire them too. After all, jobs were hard to come by these days, but I wasn't going to do that right now. It would look too much like a personal vendetta. Even if I were to conduct layoffs, it had to be for legitimate and legal reasons to minimize losses. As for Victoria and Ethan, they were the ringleaders of this group of bad apples. They had to go, immediately. Victoria saw that the situation was no longer in her control. She looked at me in a panic, then suddenly pushed through the crowd and grabbed my hand. Her voice was frail and helpless. "Sincere, how can you be so cruel to me? I'm your girlfriend. I've been with you for 10 whole years. In my heart, you're the one I love the most. If I hadn't pushed you to leave, you might not have become president. Let's get back together, okay? Looking at Victoria's pleading eyes, I suddenly remembered the time I had accidentally revealed our relationship to the public. She had been furious with me. When it became clear the news couldn't be suppressed, she issued a strict ban in the company group chat forbidding anyone from discussing our relationship. To prove how impartial she was, she even docked my entire month's bonus and performance pay. Now, she was swallowing her pride and begging me to reconcile in public. She must be truly desperate. I curled my lip into a sarcastic smile. Victoria, do you really think that's possible? It was a question that needed no answer. She and everyone else present knew the truth. The humiliation I had endured in this company, firing her 10,000 times over, wouldn't be enough. Getting back together was out of the question. Besides, there was still Ethan between us. Victoria grew frantic. She glanced nervously at Ethan and then said urgently, "Sincere, in the past, it was all because you spoiled me too much that I didn't know my limits. From now on, I'll stay by your side and change. Slowly. If you have to fire someone, fire Ethan. He was the one who kept stealing your credit. He was the one who was always bad-mouthing you to me. It's all his fault." Then, she suddenly glared at Ethan and snapped, "Ethan, what are you still doing here? You made that huge mess last time and let Sincere take the fall for you. And after Sincere left, how many more projects did you ruin? You good for nothing, get out." Chapter 6. This sudden tirade left everyone, including me, stunned. Ethan was so shocked his lips trembled and his eyes reddened. He asked in a shaky voice, "Victoria, you—" "Shut up, don't call me Victoria. Am I your friend? I am your boss." Victoria showed him no mercy whatsoever. Watching this scene unfold, I was surprised, but at the same time, not entirely. Victoria had always been a very selfish person, extremely focused on her own interests. It was just like back when we graduated. I had a very promising future ahead of me, but she threatened to break up with me if I didn't stay and start a business with her, all because she wanted to be an entrepreneur, a boss. So I had to give up my own future. Now, facing pressure from me, she had once again abandoned Ethan without a second thought. "Sincere, do you see my sincerity now? The one I've always loved is you. You can't fire me. This company is our blood, sweat, and tears. You can't leave me behind." She looked at me, her voice choked with emotion, her beautiful eyes glistening with tears. In the past, I would have surrendered immediately and done whatever she wanted. But now, I said coldly, "Both of you, get out." I don't want to say it a second time. This was work time, and I wasn't going to waste it on personal drama. The next moment, security guards moved in, grabbing Victoria and Ethan and dragging them outside. Some colleagues quickly gathered their belongings and threw them out the front door, eager to stay on my good side. With the two people who had been bothering me gone from the company, I could finally breathe a little easier. "Everyone back to your desks. I want this quarter's progress report sent to me before lunch." After giving my instructions, I went back to my office. This used to be Victoria's office, but her things had already been cleared out by the staff. Even though we had built this company together, and I had bought many of the things inside, I rarely had the chance to come in here. Victoria's reason was always, "I'm the boss and you're an employee, it's not proper." Yet, she never brought up that excuse when Ethan was in here every day, joking around and goofing off with her. Whatever, it was all in the past. I ordered new office supplies online. I wouldn't be using Victoria's leftovers. Just before noon, a colleague timidly knocked on my door and came in. "Sir, something happened at the front door. Would you like to see?" He then sent me a secretly recorded video. I opened it and saw Victoria and Ethan being dragged out by security, both looking furious. Ethan was grabbing her, demanding to know why she had treated him like that. But Victoria's selfish demeanor from earlier had vanished. She gently stroked Ethan's face and said softly, "I had no choice. One of us had to stay so we'd have a chance to bring the other one back. But I never expected that ungrateful wolf, Sincere Clark, to be so merciless." Ethan was still hurt, but his voice had softened considerably. "Victoria, is that really what you think?" Victoria cupped his face and gave him a light peck on the lips. "Of course." She then said to him in a coaxing tone, "Be good and go home for now. I'll think of another way." Ethan suddenly pressed her against the wall and kissed her fiercely for a long time before pulling back, panting and nodding. The video ended abruptly. The colleague whispered conspiratorially, "Sir, you need to be careful of Victoria. She cheated on you a long time ago." We never dared to say anything before. Victoria was the boss, and we were afraid she'd target us. The truth is they've been having an affair for 3 years. For a moment, I couldn't quite describe how I felt. It was just absurd. All those years of deep love. What on earth had I been in love with? I didn't let him continue with stories from the past and just told him to leave. I needed to clear my head and focus on my work. When I got home that evening, just as I was about to open the door, a figure suddenly appeared behind me, wrapping their arms around me tightly. Hot, ragged breaths brushed against my face. Sincere. Chapter 7. The woman's voice was soft and seductive. Her hands roamed over my body as she pushed me step by step into the apartment. Just as she was about to move closer, I shoved her away forcefully and flicked on the lights. Victoria stood there, a look of passionate confusion on her face. She looked at me with hurt in her eyes. Sincere, what are you doing? A wave of disgust washed over me. Just yesterday, at this same time, she had been sitting on my sofa, waiting for me to come home, threatening me to hand over my client files. She had been so high and mighty. And now, she was resorting to these tactics to seduce me. How many faces did this woman have that I had never seen? Get out, but Victoria clung to me again. No, Sincere, are you really going to let me go? I love you. I gave you my youth. You can't be so heartless. Aren't you just jealous of Ethan? I've already dumped him. Why are you still being like this? If I hadn't seen that video at noon, I might have actually believed she was telling the truth. Of course, I had no intention of getting back with her anyway. It was just that at this point, nothing she did could surprise me. Victoria, we've broken up. Can you please stop pestering me? I said, trying to keep my temper in check. But Victoria only cried harder. Have you forgotten the promises you made to me? You said you would love me for a lifetime. You said it. Sincere, please forgive me just this once. Just once. As she spoke, she pulled a small box from her pocket, opened it, and revealed an exquisite watch. She looked at me eagerly. This watch is custom made. I didn't give it to Ethan. I'm giving it to you. I'm giving it to you. You are my only man. The sight of the watch instantly brought back the memory of her having me held down at the airport while they forcibly opened my suitcase. My expression turned to ice. I'll say it one more time. Get out. Victoria stared at me, stunned, a flash of anger in her eyes. She snatched the watch back and said viciously, Sincere Clark, you just wait with that. She stormed out in a rage. For the next few days I heard nothing about Victoria. With my restructuring, the company began to run smoothly. Backed by the parent corporation, many projects proceeded with exceptional ease. I also hired several capable new employees to help manage company affairs and fired the former colleagues who had just been slacking off. One day, just after I finished a morning meeting, I received a sudden phone call from Ethan. As soon as I answered, he started screaming. Sincere Clark, where did you hide Victoria? What the hell did you do to her? Her phone has been off for days, and she's not responding on social media, you bastard. Chapter 8. I frowned, my voice turning cold. Are you a mad dog just biting at anyone? I don't know where Victoria is. He immediately shot back. You're lying. Victoria disappeared the night she went to find you. If you don't tell me the truth, I'm calling the police with that. Ethan hung up. I couldn't be bothered with him. Even if he did call the police, it had nothing to do with me. However, Mr. Grant, who had come to my office to report on his work, overheard the commotion and couldn't help but mention, I saw Victoria with Mr. Quinn last time. The two of them seemed to be getting very close. I frowned. Mr. Quinn was the domestic head from the parent company who was supposed to be my contact. Why would Victoria be involved with him? Before I could wonder further, Mr. Grant provided the answer. Victoria actively seduced Mr. Quinn. I don't know if she used drugs or if he was a willing participant, but the two of them have been spending a lot of time together recently. Mr. Grant even sent me a video of Mr. Quinn and Victoria having dinner together. He looked worried. I just hope this Victoria doesn't have any new ideas about the company. Mr. Quinn was the head of the domestic subsidiary, while I was sent from the overseas headquarters. So, the situation was indeed uncertain. I nodded to show I understood. Then I forwarded the video to Ethan. Wasn't Ethan worried about Victoria's safety? I wondered how he would react when he found out she was hooking up with another man. That very evening, things blew up. Mr. Grant and I had just finished a project meeting nearby and were planning to get some dinner, but when we arrived at the restaurant, we saw Victoria being dragged out of a private room by her hair by a well-dressed middle-aged woman. Her designer clothes were torn. A crowd had gathered, taking pictures. Mr. Quinn was nowhere to be seen. "You home-wrecking fox, how dare you seduce my husband, you bitch? Who do you think you are for trash like you? A one-night stand is all you'll ever get. What more could you possibly want?" "Get lost," Victoria, her face bruised and swollen, staggered to her feet. Her eyes scanned the crowd and locked onto Ethan. She lunged at him, screaming furiously, "Ethan, this is all your fault. Haven't you ruined me enough? I finally managed to get with Mr. Quinn, and you had to stab me in the back." Ethan slapped her across the face, his expression twisted with rage. "You have the nerve to blame me? What did you tell me? You said you were going to beg Sincere for forgiveness. How did you end up in some old man's bed? I called you so many times I almost got on my knees begging people to help me find you. And you were betraying me. You bitch." Victoria's lip was bleeding. She glared at Ethan venomously, then threw herself at him, scratching his face and straddling him as they fought. "If it weren't for you, would Sincere have broken up with me? You're just a toy boy. Who do you think you are to control who I sleep with? We just had a sugar baby arrangement. Did you really think you were my man? Are you a fool?" Victoria and I had trained in boxing for 2 years. When she fought Ethan, she was ruthless. Ethan cried out in pain, and fueled by her humiliating words, he snapped, punching her again and again. Chapter 9. I felt nothing but satisfaction. A dog-eat-dog fight was truly a spectacular show. Just then the police arrived, separated the two, took them away, and dispersed the crowd. A week later, Victoria was released. Ethan was still in custody. I didn't care about what happened to them, but a month later at a business cooperation conference, I ran into Victoria again. She was on the arm of an older man, carrying herself as if she were his wife. It wasn't Mr. Quinn, but Mr. Lawson, the owner of a company we were interested in partnering with. What a coincidence, Sincere. "I hear you want my husband's project. If you get on your knees and bow to me right now, I might consider it." I frowned at her. Victoria was still beautiful, but there was an indescribable foxy quality to her now. She looked at me with the same arrogance as before, as if I were just a dog that should be bowing at her feet. I ignored her completely. I later learned from a friend that Victoria had managed to win over Mr. Lawson in just 1 week. I found that suspicious. Mr. Lawson was known in the industry for being a ruthless businessman who prioritized profit above all else. Given his age, experience, and social status, he had seen all kinds of women. Why would he fall for Victoria? I had someone look into it, and sure enough, we found something fishy. After getting together with Mr. Lawson, her new company had swiftly secured several major projects. And all of these projects were ones that Mr. Quinn had previously been pursuing. Upon further investigation, I discovered that Victoria had stolen trade secrets from Mr. Quinn and used them as leverage to strike a deal with Mr. Lawson. I certainly wasn't going to let this slide. After gathering all the evidence, I filed a lawsuit against Victoria for theft of trade secrets. When Victoria found out, she immediately stormed into my company to confront me. She screamed hysterically, "Sincere Clark, get out here, you despicable coward. What did I ever do to you to deserve this? I must have been blind to have ever been with a disgusting man like you." When I came out, she even tried to lunge at me and push me, but the security guards held her back firmly. I stared at her coldly. "Victoria, you brought all of this on yourself. If your conscience were truly clear, you wouldn't be here making a scene at that moment." All I felt for Victoria was disgust and revulsion. To think I had wasted 10 years of my life on such a selfish, unscrupulous woman who would do anything to get what she wanted. "Get her out of here," I ordered coldly before returning to my work. A week later, the court delivered its verdict. Victoria was sentenced to 5 years in prison, and because of his involvement with her, Mr. Quinn was suspended by the headquarters. I was temporarily put in charge of all his duties. As I was leaving the courthouse and about to get into my car, a figure with a limp slowly approached me. As he got closer, I realized it was Ethan. His once handsome face was now scruffy and unshaven, looking utterly worn out. There was a deep scar across his cheek. I couldn't help but frown, guessing it was from the public brawl he had with Victoria. But his leg. Chapter 10. Big C, I came here to say I'm sorry. For the past few years, Victoria and I stole your projects, made you take the fall, and took your position. I am truly sorry. During my time in jail, I've done a lot of reflecting. Victoria ended up where she is because she deserved it, and so did I. I wish you a bright future. I looked at Ethan, somewhat bewildered. not understanding the meaning behind his sudden confession. Tears welled up in Ethan's eyes, and his voice choked with emotion. I loved her so much. I thought that by taking her from you, I would have everything. Turns out I was just a clown. Heh. He finished speaking dejectedly, gave a bitter smile, and walked away. After that day, I never saw Ethan again. Victoria, however, had someone pass a message to me, saying she hoped I would visit her, that she was very lonely. I didn't get involved. She and I were complete strangers now. Her life had nothing to do with me anymore. 5 years later, I had led the company to increase its market value several times over. The headquarters officially appointed me as the head of all domestic operations. My career was thriving. Later, I heard from a mutual friend that Victoria had been released from prison. She had developed mental health issues and was taken back to her hometown by her family to get married and have children. My future was still unfolding. For the rest of my life, I just wanted to live for myself. The end.